All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Michael Takeuchi. I'm the events coordinator at Chaucer's Bookstore, a 47-year-old independent bookstore located in Santa Barbara, California. To purchase today's book, to browse other books, or to check out our upcoming events, please go to our website, chaucersbooks.com. We'll be introducing our participants soon, but if I can remind everybody that since this is a webinar, our guests and myself are the only ones seen and heard on this broadcast. However, there is a Q&A function located at the bottom of your screen, so please feel free to utilize that. And we hope to get to your questions, time permitting. Today's event is being simulcasted on our YouTube channel and will be available to view shortly after program's completion. So let's begin. I'm just going to turn on my little recorder button, and here we go. Today we welcome our own Britta Kay. Come on out, Britta.
Hello.
Hi, Britta Kay. How are you?
I'm doing just great. How are you, Mike?
Great. Britta's our children's room specialist extraordinaire. And she has this wonderful book called LOBSTAH Garden by Alli, Brydon, and E.G. Keller that came out, and she loves this book. How much do you love this book, Britta?
A little too much. I'm pretty sure the people in the front room are really tired of hearing about LOBSTAH, but I'm not. The children's staff is not. The kids and the parents are not. So we're having a good time with LOBSTAH.
We're all talking with Boston accents now, I think, throughout the store.
It's happening a lot. It's happening a lot. Yes, and yeah, about half the staff's like, oh, another LOBSTAH. I mean, I hear it from the front. It's pretty great.
What is the connection? There's a local story involved here about ocean pollution. I think that's a really strong message. And also, but what is the other appeal to you about LOBSTAH Garden?
I think that actually LOBSTAH Garden has a lot of levels of appeal. I mean, the whimsy of a Boston accent outside of Boston is already lovely. Taking a very difficult topic and making it accessible and in some ways very funny is really helpful in teaching kids about the environment and how to care for the environment. But it's also a story about friends. It's a story about neighbors that don't really like each other at first, and then across time and having a shared problem helps them become friends. So I think it's got a lot of appeal.
And obviously with Suzanne Rorick, your coworker,
yes,
it had enough appeal where she took a copy of LOBSTAH Garden on a trip, didn't she?
She did.
Here, we have some photos here we want to share.
Yes, Suzanne went on vacation last week to Boston and Maine, and she took a copy. And yeah, this is through your garden. This was a surprise for Alli. Alli has no idea we've done this.
And then we've got, let's see, we've got this guy. And then, wait, where's the one with the ice cream here?
Yes, Walter did not like the blueberry ice cream, sadly. I think that Walter just doesn't have very good taste in ice cream, but look at that. He's definitely different. It didn't go well.
But she also took it to some serious places here too. Like we had to put LOBSTAH Garden with these.
Yes, this is Naturalist Notebook, which is an amazing shop, kind of a science center / bookstore. And yeah, she had to join the LOBSTAHs.
Let's see what else we got here. And we also have this bookstore.
She found LOBSTAH Garden in the wild. You see it's on the shelf right there. And she asked if she could put our copy next to it. That is the oldest bookstore in Maine. And so LOBSTAH Garden is selling in Maine as well.
There's one house though, we wanted to bring it door to door, I think. And unfortunately the occupant wasn't home.
He was not home, but we imagine that Stephen King really loves LOBSTAH Garden. I mean, we can't say that. It's not an endorsement, but we think Stephen King really appreciated Walter's visit. We'll check
So
in with him later.
Okay. So you brought some friends with you, and why don't you introduce your friends and
Well,
introduce the book, and I'll sign off and let you take it away, Britta.
thank you, Mike. We have the wonderful team behind LOBSTAH Guide. We have Alli Brydon here from the south of England, and we have E.G. Keller, also known as Gerald. Gerald's here from Colorado. Hi, guys.
Hi. Hello.
Wasn't that a fun tour Suzanne took?
Oh my God, I'm overwhelmed.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Joe.
I love the bookshelf, the lobster bookshelf. That was fantastic. Where was that?
It's called Naturalist's Notebook. I'm not sure exactly what town. That's in Maine. But it is apparently it's almost like a children's science museum / bookstore. Every room has a theme. It's crazy. The pictures she sent me were nuts. So we definitely are planning on visiting there too. But just
awesome.
The fact that she found LOBSTAH Garden in the wild in that other bookstore, we were so excited. But Stephen King, let's be fair. I think Stephen King is the best. I was very excited about that.
Gerald, do you think we can get a book blurb from him for the reprints?
Well, I'm sure we probably could. Just hopefully it's not like a Salem's Lot type of, arrangement, so that, it's not bloody.
You're going to want to check on the terms of that blurb agreement.
But clearly he has good taste in books.
The blurb could be, this book has been to my house, Stephen King. It really could be that simple.
It would not be a lie.
It would not be a lie. And I think it would sell the book.
This is a book.
This is a book.
Yeah.
So yes.
Oh, Britta, as they say where I come from, another, dialect of English, I'm verklempt.
Oh,
that was amazing.
Yourselves.
I'm
so excited. We were so excited about that.
Oh, cool.
So we're glad you like it. We'll send you the photos later. So guys, LOBSTAH Garden, this book that I'm so obsessed with. What do you think? What is this book about for you guys?
It's about all the things you said, really, Britta. You really hit the nail on the head. It's about friendship and enemyship. Is that a thing? Neighbors who don't
frenemies.
Right.
Frenemies. It's about frenemies. Yeah. And obviously it has a very strong environmental overtone, let's say. It's about ocean pollution. It's about trying to do our best to clean up the oceans. Gerald, what does it mean to you? What is it for you?
Well, this has kind of been a story that's been on the back burner for a couple of years, working on it. And for me, I'll be quite honest with you. It started off as dinner. One night, my husband and I had gone for dinner, and it was surf and turf. And I looked down, and it just occurred to me, here's this lovely lobster tail. And it just occurred to me that poor dude or dudette was alive just a few minutes ago. Mm-hmm. So it just was like, oh. And so it was originally going to be an escape story, but it slowly, as I did more research into it, I started looking at just the pollution aspect, and it turned into a really great way to dovetail a fun story and shoehorn in important ideas in a way that's not quite beating people over the head. So,
and I think it was a way for Gerald and me to just get in as many puns as possible.
Yes.
It was a vehicle for puns.
I mean, really, did it need to be anything else? No, but it is yet so much more. And Gerald, I'm actually very excited that Surf and Turf was involved, because I tried to pitch that. We have another book I love called Adorable, about a bull that is trying to be cute via copying popular memes so that he's not replaced. Spoiler, he's not replaced. But I tried to market it as Surf and Turf, and I was shot down in the office.
Oh,
come on.
It's actually that's a brilliant idea.
Thank you. I'm going to tell my manager that. So, but now that
cows and lobsters.
Now that we've established that we are on a very similar wavelength, guys, I think it is time to jump straight into a reading, don't you?
Yeah, Sounds great.
Yay.
Happy to.
All right. So
Wait,
I will.
let me get my Boston accent on.
You got to get in character. Get it.
Yep.
Get it. All right.
Waltz
I will
the
hold up the
Garden.
book
Sounds good.
and you guide me.
Walter was a proud LOBSTAH. His home, spotless. His style, straight out of Crustaceans Illustrated. His garden, a blooming paradise. Yes, Walter had quite the blue thumb. He was hip to the latest underwater gardening trends. Native kelps, ornamental grasses, rainbow algae. This careful crustacean was meticulous in his maintenance. Walter had one big dream: to win the annual Swell Gardens contest. He worked hard all year long to keep a most perfect lobster's garden. But that honor always went to his neighbor, Milton. You can see Milton's got his name on the trophy 5 times, 5 years in a row. Milton was loud. He was chaotic, and his garden just flowed with the tides. The judges ate it up. This year, Walter would be number 1. But just as he was leveling his hedges, wham! Holy whale poop! He knew exactly who was responsible. Who do you think was responsible? Of course, they worked it out like adults. Hey, Chowderhead, you missing some trash in that garbage garden of yours? I was just about to ask you the same thing, Walter, you blue barnacle. Got any bright ideas how something like that finds its way into my prize-winning sea flowers? You trying to sabotage me? But it didn't stop. Walter woke every morning to another disgusting thing dropped in his once flawless garden. So did Milton. Walter's sea grapes burst. Milton's phytoplankton flipped, and not in a good way. Each blamed the other. All the while, both gardens filled with garbage. Then, one particularly trashy afternoon, rumble! Crumble, rumble, boom, crash, shudder. The garbage mountain tumbled down. Pop! Clearly, things had gotten out of claw. And then, thud! A big old toilet bowl just drops right down. Milt, I think we found the culprit, said Walter. How's about we get a look topside, said Walter. I was going to suggest the same thing, said Milton. Milton and Walter hightailed it to the surface to take a look around. And what did they find? Chowderhead. Milt, I got an idea how to solve what appears to be a mutual problem, said Walter. I'm all antenna, Walt. And they're pointing to Lobster Pot Hollow. Lobster pots are lobster traps, basically. So what do? They take the garbage. They go back and forth between their garbage heaps and Lobster Pot Hollow. It was the first time they agreed on anything. Walter and Milton eventually went back to doing what they did best. That's some prize winning sea cabbage. Wicked, excellent eelgrass. Not everything changed because Milton won again for the 6th time in a row. But one thing certainly did. And then you can see the note at the bottom. Hey, chowderheads, enough with the garbage. W and M. And they've got their clean gardens back.
Excellent. Thank you so
Yay.
much.
Oh, you're welcome. And then there's a bunch of lobster knowledge in the back of the book, which you can see more about if you buy the book and have it at home. You can read about our ocean and the biosphere of the ocean and how you can help clean up the ocean because there's quite a bit of pollution in there.
Yes.
And then
And
you can
yes,
also learn how to speak in Boston speak. There's a glossary in the back.
Yes, kids. The Boston Glossary includes things like Boston Harbor, the body of water where Milton and Walter live. Let's see, we got a lobster pot. That's good. Lobster trap. Let's see. A sub, not a submarine in the water, but a wicked large sandwich. This has been very popular around here, this glossary. We have learned a lot.
It should be a glossary.
It should be a glossary, yeah.
There's
I
a
didn't even think
pun
about that one
missing.
until just now.
Nice.
It's even further with that. Add, double up the pun.
Guys, there's a pun missing. And I feel so sad. We will add in the Stephen King edition. We will add
Yes.
glossary, and he will say,
second.
"I can now recommend this book because of the glossary." So guys, it has occurred to me reading this book with you now. Thank you so much. It's such a delight to hear it read by the authors.
Oh, you're welcome.
But which one of you is Walter and which is Milton? Which of you is the fastidious, every little detail in place, and which is the messy one? Or are you both one or the other?
I fluctuate between the two, depending on what I'm doing. I'm much more of a Walter in my life, but then
I'm
creatively
very much
sometimes
Walter.
I'm a Milton. How about you, Gerald?
I'm a Walter.
Mm.
Full on
Yeah.
Walter. I don't cut loose. This is about as excited as I get.
Wow, that's impressive.
I don't wear ties, however.
I mean, that's very good. I think that you're hitting a nice happy medium there. Yes,
Well,
I think so.
Moderately miserable medium.
Well, there's a scale of 1 to 10. It's like a 4. It'll be fine.
It's a good 4, solid 4, decent 4.
Then how did you guys land on this particular relationship of lobsters? Like, how did their characters kind of arise as you were working through this whole process?
Yeah, I think so. Gerald had this idea in his head for a long, long time. So maybe do you want to talk about the characters
Sure.
and how they sort of blossomed?
Well, initially it was going to be just Walter, and it was hard. But it was hard to get the story working with one character. But I didn't know if I could actually, if it having a second character pull in would help. But I still wanted Walter to be the main character, and so as time went on, what was initially Walter originally was just a regular dude, but then he kind of turned into this curmudgeonly, uptight, very things in their proper place type of character, and it just seemed kind of fun to give him a friend who was not him. So it was I don't know if this is going to age me, but if anyone's ever seen The Odd Couple, Felix and Oscar, so that was kind of the dynamic that I was going for. And originally Milton was actually wearing a really slovenly shirt, which I thought was funny, but it kind of looked a little bad, so we kind of gave him a smart little yellow pullover. But that's kind of where it came from, because I always thought it was funny. I've always liked very curmudgeonly characters. I think they're funny, and so this was a great opportunity to just do that for a kid's book.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
And then when we were going back and forth, I was kind of like, well, why is Milton winning the Swell Gardens contest over and over again? And it kind of, to me, suggested that, you know, he could be a little bit more of that like creative free spirit, and that, you know how when you try to do something hard, really hard, and you know, practice and try to get it perfect, it feels perfect, but it's not, it doesn't always, it's not always the best. You could work at something super hard and not always win the contests, right? And sometimes just letting go a little bit will get you there. And I kind of wanted to push that with Milton a little bit, in that he really embodied this creative spirit. And that's what the judges actually really like to eat Milton's garden, which is why he won. But
Yes.
it also suggests that he, you know, had that creative vision, and just let his creativity take over his garden. So yeah, I think, and then from there he kind of became more of a well-rounded character. And then Milton.
I also think, I also think that like one of the little things that I really wanted in this was the fact that Walter doesn't win. Even, you know, you think that you always have the stories, well, hey, he wins at the end because he learned his lesson, you know, but he doesn't, you know, and Milton wins again. And I thought that was kind of a nice subtle message, that for kids, that, you know, you can do all the right things and make all these changes and try, which is all great, but doesn't necessarily mean you're going to win, or that things are going to go your way, because it's always that way on television or in the movies. You know, life is a lot weirder than that. So I thought it was kind of a nice little thing to put in here, that, you know, it's a lesson of life, that you can do all the right things and still not come out on top. And I think it's actually funny, just like it just confirms his worldview. But that's kind of an adult thing, so I don't know. That's the Sesame Street
reading the book
aspect
too,
of it.
so I think it's in there for them.
Oh gosh, I mean, the best picture books can be read by children and adults, I think. And I think the different layers you can read it on. I mean, I'm so excited you mentioned that, Gerald, because I feel the same way about that detail about him not winning. I was actually struck by how important it was that they've now become friends. You know, they've realized, you know, when you already don't like someone, you already have a bias, and then something goes wrong, you're like, oh, that guy did it. So there's a blame game that keeps going on for a while, and eventually they're like, it's a shared problem, and the shared problem brings them together. Well, even though that shared problem was a great bonding moment, him losing again could have broken the friendship, but it doesn't. Oh, yeah. And I think it's wonderful for kids to also see, like, you know, there's something more important than winning. The garden itself is a beautiful thing. Both of their gardens are wonderful. And their friendship is now wonderful. And, you know, who knows, maybe he will win someday. Maybe he will let loose and learn something from Milton. Maybe Milton will learn something from Walter. That's a different book. But, you know, I like that idea that, you know, kids winning is not the point of this book at all, actually, which is refreshing. I haven't read a book quite like this, both for the choice in crustacean and also I think that particular message. So I think that's pretty cool. We have a question that actually does speak to something I'd like to talk about. Judith, thank you so much for your question. You're asking, what's your process like working together to create a story? And this is not the first one you've worked on together, correct?
Correct. It's the second book we've worked on together, but this is the first book that we've co-authored.
Right.
We worked before as editor, me, and am I pointing in the right direction for Gerald, illustrator, on The Day in the Life of Marlon Brando.
Yes.
Yes.
I love.
Which we're all very proud of. Yeah.
Yes. As you should be.
Yeah. That was probably the weirdest experience doing a book I've ever had, and probably the most expedited. That was like I don't even know, from the time that you contacted me to the time we delivered, like what was that?
5 or 6 weeks?
2 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was almost 2 months, which is
wow.
Yeah. and it was being written the entire time we were drawing it. It was like they had ideas, but I was still getting notes. We need to change this. We need to do this for this part, and so we had again, and it normally in publishing you have like the hard deadline, but this was a really hard deadline because it had to be printed up and in physical possession of the studio for that particular broadcast.
Well, and would one of you like to explain? I know exactly what this book is, but some of our viewers might not be aware what this book is and why it's so special. Why is Marlon Bundo a special book?
I can take this one, Gerald, if you want me to. A Day in the Life of Marlon Bundo was put together by the team Last Week Tonight with John Oliver, which is a very popular television show on HBO. And the book is about Marlon Bundo, who is a bunny. He actually happens to be Mike Pence's bunny, or his daughter's bunny, I think. And so he's a real life character. And he is, in our story, a gay bunny who falls in love with another bunny. And
another boy bunny.
And they hop all around. It's not the White House. It's the place where Mike Pence was living.
The Naval Observatory.
Naval Observatory. Thank you. And I think they hop through some very important meetings with very important people, and they fall in love and they wind up getting married. And then there's a stink bug who comes around and says, no, you can't get married. The boy bunnies don't marry boy bunnies. And the rest of the animal friends, in support of the two bunnies, tell the stink bug he's got to go, and they vote him out. And at the end, they wind up being able to get married, because stink bugs are temporary, but love is forever. And it wound up being published the day before the Pence family published a similar book about their bunny, Marlon Bundo, which Marlon Bundo was not gay in their book. So the team at Last Week Tonight with John Oliver wanted to publish their book alongside Mike Pence's book to make a statement, and they did. And the proceeds of the book went to two very important charities, an AIDS Foundation and the Trevor Project, which goes to help LGBTQ youth. And so it raised a ton of money for charity, and it was a cultural phenomenon from the moment it published.
And I don't even think that they anticipated the response that it would get. They looked at it, at least from everything when I talked to them, they were looking at it. This is good. This is a great punchline, and we'll have something to show for it. But it really kind of took on a life of its own.
It hit a nerve, I think, really.
Yeah, and I don't even know how many they actually sold. I think it was a significant number.
Well, it was on the New York Times bestseller list for a really long time. Yeah. Oh, thank you for the screenshot.
There you are.
That was the broadcast. And you're seeing John Oliver hold up our book next to the Pence book. It was on the New York Times bestseller list for many, many months.
I think it was like 26 weeks or something.
Right.
Like that.
Yeah.
Well, I ordered it that day. I was watching that broadcast. I ordered it
one of the first
evening, and it took 2.5 months to get to me.
Oh,
That's how big
it sold out the first day.
It was a huge phenomenon. So
yeah.
My agent was in the audience.
I was sitting next to her
for the tape. Oh, that okay, yeah. And so she sent me the copy. So I got one a little easier than I would probably have otherwise.
Yeah, I got to.
I wasn't able. That's awesome.
So what was the process like? You were really in charge of the overall project, Alli, and
I was the project manager and editor on that, because I'm also a children's book editor in addition to being an author. And when they came to me with this project and said, we need a great artist, I thought of Gerald immediately. He was the first person, and thankfully he was available. And I knew that he could work to a crazy schedule and have a smile on his face underneath a lot of sweat, probably. The whole time.
I looked a lot like Walter probably during some of the process.
I mean, that's valid.
Maybe like Milton, but
Now, Gerald, had you already worked with Jill Twiss at this point, or were you new to working with Jill?
No, actually, I didn't know much about. I didn't know who was writing it at this point. I no idea. But again, it was in process, and we didn't get to know each other until like well into the process. And so again, this was a lot of times for the process of running a picture, or of doing a picture book, the artist rarely talks to the author,
Right.
because the intermediary is always the art director and the editor, because the art director and editor have a specific vision usually of how things are going to look, and they don't, the writer has already contributed, has already made their contribution with the words, and generally the art directors, they give the artist, they want to see what the artist can contribute that will add another layer to the words. So, because sometimes you can add things visually that are not part of, you create a visual world, and it gives the artist and the illustrator an opportunity to add a different layer to the story than just the words. And it's interesting when that process, it's always interesting to talk to the author afterward to find out how they responded to what the result was, because sometimes they're like, "Ooh, I never thought of that," or it's like, "God, I hated that." But so that was kind of how that was the process for me. And I didn't really start talking to Jill until we were closer to the end of the process of it all.
Right. And you went on to work on 2 other books with Jill.
Yes.
Which is great.
We landed the contract for these 2 books, an idea that she had for these great little characters. And it's the first time I've done like a sequel, same characters. So that was kind of fun.
Yeah, I just picked up the Someone New this morning because I just found it in my research last night. Somehow I'd missed it, and I went, what a delightful book. I love that book so
I
far.
love that one.
Yeah, it's really, and yet another book, great book about friendship, and about not wanting your friendship world to get upset by a new person. What if they like them more than they like me? You know.
Yeah. And great animal names too. Jill has a great, she maintains an Excel spreadsheet of names for animals that are just phenomenal. Like what was it in Marlon Bundo, Dill Prickle is a little hedgehog.
The hedgehog.
That is just the best name.
Yes, this book might have one of the best blurbs I've ever seen on the back. Quote, there are 2 important things to know about this book. First, it's delightful. And second, if you think you can come up with better names for a pair of otters than Duffles and Nudge, you are sorely mistaken. John Oliver, host of Last Week Tonight with John Oliver. That really
Duffles.
is probably the best. It's true, though. It's a wonderful, wonderful book. So when you came to this book, we already mentioned you had the idea over dinner, which is amazing.
I did,
when did you guys start talking about it? Was it pretty quickly after that experience, or did it take a while?
It took a long while, actually.
Yeah, I think Gerald had this one in a drawer for a little while.
I had been, again, doing variations on the story over and over again, and nothing was clicking. And so I put it aside for quite a while. And then I came to my agent, and so I need this. Something's I keep hitting a wall, and so she put me together with Alli, and so Alli did her magic, and I'll let her.
Yeah, so I think so. Gerald and I share an agent, Painted Words, which is a wonderful agency, Lori and Claire. And they came to me and said, Gerald's been knocking around with this manuscript for a while. Can you take a look at it and collaborate with him? And I said, I would love to work with Gerald again, of course. So I took a look at it. And I think at that point, it was a solid plot. There was a good structure, and the characters really needed rounding out. I think we needed a little bit more toilets crashing. I think that was probably, but plot arc and climax in the story. And so Gerald and I sort of kicked the manuscripts back and forth over a few weeks, did a few revisions. We put in a ton of puns and jokes. I think we came up with LOBSTAH. I don't know exactly. Somebody asked us that. How did you get to LOBSTAH? I think it just materialized. I think I just threw it on the top of one of our drafts and sent it over to Lori, and she was like, "This is great. Love the LOBSTAH." So yeah, it was very much a collaborative.
The only thing I insisted on was that that holy whale poop.
Yeah. I was going to
stay in.
Yeah.
I was going to ask whose that was.
I always think of Gerald when I say holy whale poop,
And now I will too. Thank you.
Thank you.
So yeah, I think it was just a really fun, quick, like lobbing the manuscript back and forth over a few weeks. And this was like years ago, because that picture books take ages to make. Right. And so recently I kind of went back and forth I went back into my inbox to see, or my outbox, whatever it is, to see some of our emails back and forth, just to sort of like get a sense of how it all worked. And it felt like magic, So yeah, we sent the manuscript back and forth a few times, and then sent it off to our agent, and she was like, "Yeah, this is great. Let me send this out." And then I think it was a few months later, we got the call that Source Books wanted to publish it, and we were thrilled.
Yeah,
fantastic.
And they had a plan on for marketing, which was really they've done a lot for this book, which is amazing. There are publishers who don't do much. Right. They've helped a lot of ways in just getting a lot of eyes on it. So that's fantastic.
And the great thing about it landing with our wonderful editor, Kelly Barella-Saylor at Sourcebooks Explore, is that Kelly actually is a nonfiction editor mostly. I think she publishes a lot of nonfiction, but she publishes fiction that has a nonfiction bent. And so our book fit really well in her list. And I think we already had a back matter page, but she wanted me to expand on it. And so I did a lot more research, and that wound up really fleshing it out in a way that I think gave it so much more appeal to children and educators, with the information about oceans and the information about conservation and even the Boston glossary. So she really helped us add those brilliant.
Yeah, I've been in dialogue with a lot of educators who are attempting to help lower grade teachers use picture books in science pedagogy, because people are so scared to teach science in lower grades. Like, am I going to get it right? Am I going to do this? And so this book to me stood out as what a great all-inclusive resource, where, it's super fun and super funny. It's going to get the kids interested. They're going to come home quoting it. The parents are either going to love or hate that. And I love it. I would be, if it was my child, I would think it was the best thing I'd ever heard. But the fact that there are, and this is how you help Walter. I think that is phenomenal. And I hope that this is a trend. I hope that this is something I continue to see, because I have what I call my general population of picture books. And then we have specialty sections, and we have a science section. LOBSTAH Garden is in the general population. I wanted to stay there because I think that this is really helping people engage it. They weren't expecting a little science, but that's what they got.
Yeah. And I think if you come to it as a child and you really get to love Walter and Milton as characters, and then you do, like you said, how do you help Walter? How do you help Milton? Yeah. If you fall in love with characters, you really do want to help them. And I hope that it sort of brings readers very gently and very lightly into that frame of mind to want to help clean up our oceans, because they do love the creatures that live there.
Yeah, and definitely we are in Santa Barbara, California, and Santa Barbara is definitely an ocean-loving town. And we still struggle to figure out how to do it well. And so this is another great resource for us. Guys, we're not running out of time yet, but I want to make sure that we get plenty of time to talk about the art of this book, because I love this illustration style, and it's a little bit different from the other illustrations I've seen you do in these other books. Do you want to tell us a little bit about, Gerald, the style of this book and why you chose? It's a sketchy, beautifully, wonderfully colorful style.
Well, it comes from, almost exhaustion. Not exhausted. If you look at the other books, particularly the Someone New and Everyone Gets a Say, and more so even than Marlon Bundo, they're very illustrative, and they're very heavily rendered. They're not realistic, but these are creatures that exist in space and time, so they have a 3D quality about them. And so that's really labor intensive. It's great, and I love it, and I've done it for a long time, but I'm also I love other art styles, and I love experimenting with different media, different looks. And so I started a couple of years ago just messing around with just loosening up my style, simplifying it. So it's not like this has replaced my style. It's kind of just another tool in my chest. But I really like the fact how flat it looks.
Yes.
There's a lot of the inspiration for this stemmed from a lot. I have a huge love of mid-century illustration styles, which were very based on UPA, which was an animation studio back then. Very simplified, very unique looking style of drawing, and trying to essentially just keep myself interested. And so it was an opportunity to I asked publisher, could I do this in this style? Would this be something that you open to? And they were fine for it, which is great. The next couple of books I'm working on are even more so. Like here's another plug. There's a book coming out next month called Twisty Turning House by Lisa Manchev. And it's even sketchier than this one, and it's going to look great. But anyway, so that's where the style has come from. It's just experimenting with it, and you get a lot of opportunity to do some extraordinary emotive looks that you don't get whenever you're doing something a little similar to a look that's in the Someone New. And those kind of books.
Right. Well, I hear, Gerald, that you have a treat for us today.
Oh,
do we get to see an illustration demonstration, perchance?
Sure. How to draw Walter. So let me see here. I'm going to share screen. Let's see what we have here. Share. How's that? Can you see it?
Perfect. It's great.
All right. I'm going to stop my video. Otherwise, all you're going to be looking at is the top of my shiny head. So 1 second. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okie dokie. Let me hang on. Where are we? Here we go. All right. So one thing that's really fantastic about, there we go. Walter is, and we talked about that style, simplification of the style. He is essentially a J when it comes down to it. Kind of fat, ugly little J. And there we go. How's that?
Great.
And one of the things with him is you can go with a couple of different expressions. It's either mild shock or just anger, or complete misery. But we're going to give him a good attitude this time. He's in a good mood. So he's actually very simple to draw. One of the challenges I had was, how do you make a lobster appealing to look at? I mean, because when you look at them, they're all gangly legs and antenna and very spider-like. And so you have to kind of give them a little bit of appeal. Otherwise, visual appeal is part of getting sympathy for your character. So he's got this, remarkably for Lobster, and as formal as he is, all he wears is a collar. I don't know where the rest of the shirt is, and a tie. And it's always a very, very straight-laced, sensible, non-threatening tie. And honestly, in my head, he's got a closet that all it is a bunch of collars with the same black little number. It's simple. It's very simple. And then you suggest his little tail here with just a couple of lines, and his tail is a very simple couple of loops. And again, one of the things with lobsters, I was like, how do you do a lobster with appeal? One of the things that's kind of creepy about a lobster is their legs. There's no getting around that. So I just kind of gave him some simplified little stubs, because it's a little, again, they're cartoons, and again, you got to make them appealing and have character. And yes, they have more legs than this, but it's, this is, you got to, again, you don't want to freak people out. So there's his legs, and whenever he walks, you're going to see like a lot of little motion lines like that, but we're going to get rid of that at this point. So there's that part. And then I'm going to add another layer because I always screw this part up. He's got his little arm, and again, simplification and just kind of give his claw a little bit of character here. Hand on his hip, and we're going to give him, since he's in a good mood, he's going to be waving. And one of the things that I was really interested in was, again, he was always a blue lobster. And then I actually did some research, and blue lobsters are actually a thing.
Yes.
They are unusual, and usually, like, if people catch them, they actually usually let them go because they are rare to find. And it's if I remember correctly, and I could be wrong, so forgive me if I am, it's a genetic mutation that causes them to have an indigo tint. And
according to my back matter page, you are correct, Gerald.
Oh, I am. I actually hit it on the nail.
Yeah, you did.
Okay, that's great.
On the claw.
So this is on the claw. So, and if you ever look at like lobsters, they have a multiplicity of these let me put this together, of antenna. And if you noticed in the story it says I'm all antenna. That's actually how lobsters navigate their surroundings. That's where their sense of smell is, and that's how they look at the world. But they also, again, they have tons of these things. So I just gave each of them have two large ones, Milton and Walter. And then I also gave them 2 secondary ones. And these are ways I use these antennas, the antennae, as a secondary set of eyebrows to kind of express their mood. Like whenever Walter's in a bad mood, his antenna are just out of whack, and his, like that. So it was a way of re-expressing and going for broke with emotion that you can't do with a more realistic style. So, and there, ladies and gentlemen, is a blue lobster who does not win contests, but has an affinity for gardening and the shape of a square. So, because essentially he is a great big square personality.
Wow. Gerald, that is marvelous. Thank you.
It was so much fun to see.
So, full disclosure, I wanted to be an animator as a kid. And I am an artist at times, but I was so excited. Tutorial.
Hey, look at that.
Good job.
That's awesome.
I'm gonna watch this again and do that again.
I wanted to sketch too, but all of my materials are over there.
Right. I mean, I all I had was a thing. But Gerald, that was just magical. Thank you so much. Wow. And I'm really excited that you got to play with a more effusive, if you will, style and a more immediate style. Like it definitely has almost a sense of an actor acting rather than something that's posed.
One of the things that the style for the Someone New and Marlon Bundo, I love all sorts of music, and so I look at that style for Someone New and those other ones as like orchestral music, very planned, meticulous, every note in its place, every player knowing when to come in and come out for a purpose. And this style I look at as jazz. It's very spontaneous. There's it's very one of the things was like leaving mistakes. Now it's digital. I do it digitally, so there's not, you have to fix things, but allowing things to look expressive, off the cuff, impromptu. And that's one of the things I really love about mid-century and from illustrations. If you actually look at children's books from the late 60s, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of almost jazz feel to the styles of illustration from that era that are just amazing. And I enjoy that. So that's kind of how I look at it. And I'm glad that it feels that way. It's a lot more, again, a lot more accidental, I think. And I really enjoy that energy that comes from that.
Accidental on purpose?
On purpose. Ah.
I'm just saying.
That's a shell of a joke.
I like this group. Now, we unfortunately need to wrap this up. It has gotten way out of claw. So my brother asked a great question, but it's too long a question. So sorry, bro, it's not going to happen today. But maybe we'll answer it later. But somebody, Ted T, said, love this book. Guys, is there going to be a sequel or another story for Walter Milton?
I don't know. What do you think? I'm not sure what to do. It would be interesting.
There isn't one planned, let's just say.
Okay.
But it doesn't mean that it won't happen.
Yeah. I mean, I love the idea. It would be cool, but trying to find the right hook.
Oh,
so that it's not just a rehash of this.
Fair enough.
We can have a think though. Little brainstorming session.
Yeah, you never know. Maybe you should check out the latest underwater gardening trends. They've probably changed.
We could do Lobster Garden Endgame.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Yes. And suddenly this whole universe of lobsters arises that we never knew about.
And there are no
Nobody comes back from the beyond.
Nobody comes. What was it? No. Oh God. Okay. I'm a bad Marvel fan.
Me too. It's fine. Well, guys, this has been an absolute wicked delight. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us. This
Thank
has been
you.
so much fun.
So, guys, just to recap, we have just enjoyed a good hour with LOBSTAH Garden and Alli, Brydon, and E.G. Keller, or Gerald. And we hope to see you guys again soon and stop by anytime. We'd love to see you in Santa Barbara. Thank you, guys.
Cool. All right. Take care.
Thank you so much.